What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mission Accomplished. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about a top secret, very personal,
unreleased episode of Challenge Accepted.
Never released, never promoted.
I trained like a Playboy bunny.
Oh, what a title. I'm nervous.
I know
about
you're nervous.
This.
This is a very difficult topic to talk about.
We might delete this podcast after it's, I don't know.
So
obviously, if you're listening, we didn't delete it.
There's a big story that goes with this episode.
It happened a long time ago.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into the entire story. At least I assumed we were, right?
Yeah.
That's the point of this.
We're going to go into it. Yeah. So should we back up and explain a little bit?
Give us some background.
When I worked at BuzzFeed, actually, I produced a video where I don't know if you guys watched BuzzFeed back in the day, like 2016 BuzzFeed, but a lot of the videos back then were people trying or experiencing things for the first time in like a short 5 to 10 minute video. And I produced a video where women got to read Playboy magazines for the first time. And I actually drove all around Los Angeles finding vintage Playboy magazines for all the different decades. And in the video, basically a wide, diverse group of women sit down and react to the evolution of the presentation of women's bodies in Playboy. And that sort of got me thinking about, I thought it would be really cool to do a Challenge Accepted exploring the history of Playboy, exploring the history of this type of presentation of women's bodies in the most natural and most vulnerable form, and explore whether or not that is feminist or sexist and presented for the male gaze. Arguably, Playboy has a really fascinating history.
And controversial.
And very controversial. And I really wanted to explore that. But being me, the best way I know how to explore a new community, specifically through Challenge Accepted, is by becoming a part of that community. So I hired a personal trainer and nutritionist who train Playboy models and told them, train me as if I'm going to do a Playboy photo shoot at the end of this, which is a very specific style of training, actually. I met with a Playboy model who was the cover star at the time. I interviewed I think I interviewed like 50 people on Hollywood Boulevard.
I don't want to over-exaggerate.
Okay,
we interviewed
20.
10 people.
Okay. No, it wasn't.
It was it was 10 people.
This was a long time ago.
We interviewed a handful of people about what their
like man
thoughts.
on the street style.
Yeah, it was man on the street on Hollywood Boulevard. We were asking them, what are your thoughts on Playboy? What are your thoughts on nude modeling?
Yes. And we'll dive into that in a bit, I think.
Great.
But basically, all of this would culminate in me doing an actual Playboy photo shoot at the end of the challenge.
Well, when you say actual, what does that mean?
By that I mean we set it up. We hired a photographer who has worked on projects similar to Playboy before. We chose set decor that was inspired by different Playboy magazines. Hired a lingerie wardrobe person. Olivia did my makeup and hair.
So the challenge was less about actually doing a real Playboy shoot and the challenges associated with that. It was more about what it was like to do a nude photo shoot.
Yes.
In front of a crew of people and then having those photos exist in the universe.
Exactly. And with the thesis being, is Playboy sexist or is it empowering to women?
To have some context, could you give us a little bit about the general quick rundown history of Playboy?
Yeah, absolutely. So Playboy is such an interesting topic because everyone has a reaction to the word Playboy. Everyone has some sort of almost guttural feeling about how they feel about Playboy. I mean, the history of Playboy is so expansive. I can't even get into it fully on just this podcast. And it's really fascinating about Hugh Hefner, why he started the magazine, whether or not there are lots of interviews with Hugh Hefner saying why he believes it was a feminist choice.
And a feminist movement, really.
Yeah, to share and legitimize and talk about that we should, first of all, feel comfortable naked. Second of all, not push away the innate part of ourselves that enjoys and finds pleasure in seeing other naked bodies, which is controversial.
Being an advocate for sex workers as a legitimate career, and then any extension of that career, whether that's still photography or video.
Not to mention how many women he provided jobs to. Now, whether or not you agree with the jobs is one thing, but in the episode, something really cool that we did was we had the opportunity to meet with a woman who was a bunny at one of the Playboy clubs and was very close to Hugh Hefner. And when we interviewed her, we hardballed her. Like, we asked all the hard questions. And no matter what, she was so on the side of, he changed my life, he gave me a job, he gave me a college degree, and never asked for anything in return.
Then there's the reality show Girls Next Door, in which 3 of Hugh Hefner's bunnies are
By that, you mean like his live-in wives?
Yeah, so they're very outspoken against some for Hugh, some against Hugh for things he did. Hugh Hefner has a strong history of supporting people of color in this industry as well. I mean, some like having a very diverse cast of bunnies that serve just not just him and his mansion, that's a whole another thing, but also the Playboy clubs throughout history. Playboy clubs were these gentlemen clubs that existed where women would work as like cocktail waitresses, essentially. And he was an advocate for different legislature for people of color in the past. However, then you have the other side of Hugh, which is
the stories of the women who lived with Hugh,
the cult
at his mansion, and share stories. Holly Madison, for example, sharing stories of being pressured sexually to do things she didn't want to do. There's a lot going on here.
A lot to unpack.
Very
gray. Some people love them. Some people hate them.
It's something that you want to leave with a yes or a no, and you can't.
Which is why the episode that we were shooting was so interesting.
Because we interviewed so many people tangentially involved with Playboy, and at the end of the day, I don't know how to feel about Playboy, that it was really fascinating.
Hugh and Playboy have a very, very interesting, colorful, controversial history.
And again, you can Google the history, Wikipedia it, form your own opinion, but kind of knowing that very brief, broad strokes overview of the different topics we were interested in exploring, we had the idea to involve more people and get more opinions. So we decided to do something which we've never done in Challenge Accepted before, and we went to Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles, which is a highly foot-trafficked area.
From people from all over the United States and the world.
It's great because a lot of tourists go there, so you can get a lot of differing opinions and even international opinions.
Your sample pool, very diverse.
Yes. And we were there for a couple hours just interviewing anyone who was willing to speak, ranging from middle-aged women to elderly men to young college-aged students. And we asked them a variety of questions about their opinions on Playboy and nude modeling.
So one thing we are able to do is play you some of those man on the street interviews, because we've never been able to show them to anyone, and I think it would be really cool to just put a couple of those questions and answers in for you. It'll be a lot more fun to watch than just me explaining them.
Yeah.
So here are some of our man on the street interviews about Playboy and nude modeling.
So if you had a friend, like your best friend,
Yeah.
female friend,
and she was like, hey, I think I want to do a nude photo shoot. Would you be like supportive, or is that like weird?
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that she wants to do, it's not a problem.
What if it was for Playboy magazine?
If it's still something that she wants to do, if it's like something for her, then I don't see that there's a problem with that.
So you would be supportive of your friend?
Yeah.
What if it was like your sister?
I think that's different.
That's different?
It is
Why is
different.
that different?
I think I'd be more protective.
You're like worried about other people
Yeah,
judging
and
your
what they
sister?
would say about her.
If you guys had a friend, like a female friend, who was like, I want to do a nude photo shoot, would you be like, go for it, or would you be like, you should think about that?
No, I would most definitely tell her to do it.
Really?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, why?
That's liberating. That's her body, and she feels comfortable doing it. Why not?
Of course.
Okay, great.
Naked bitch, take your clothes off.
What if it was for Playboy magazine? Would you have a different opinion on Playboy magazine?
If she wants to put it out there like that, and she chooses to do that, then that's her. But I would tell her to think about it a little bit. But if she wants to do it, do it.
If you had a friend who was a girl, and she decided to do a nude photo shoot, would you think like, oh, that's awesome, like good for her, like I support that, like go women, or do you feel like that's weird?
You mean like she want to do it with me or
No, not with you, just like by herself.
nude, like completely nude?
Yeah.
Well, it's her decision, you know. Maybe if it's gonna be done in a professional way,
Yeah.
you know, in a real professional way,
Yeah.
she can do it.
What if it turned out that your friend was modeling for Playboy? Would that be weird? Would you be like, don't do that?
Don't have friends like that, but a lot of stars
Yeah.
did like a photo shoots for it. You know, those pictures, some of them are really beautiful. If it would be done in a professional way, why not?
What's your name?
Maria.
Maria. Okay, nice to meet you. and thank you for watching my videos.
I love your videos.
Oh, thank you. So if you had a really good friend, like your best girlfriend, and she said, I want to do a nude photo shoot, would you be supportive? Or would you be like, you might want to think about that?
I would say no, don't do it.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
You never know where your pictures are gonna end up. Like,
If you had a really good friend, female friend, who was like, I want to do a nude photo shoot, would you support her, or would you be like, wait a second?
Depends on if she actually did some research behind it first, then yeah, I would support it.
What if it was for Playboy?
I've subscribed to Playboy before in past. So
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of the magazine?
There's a lot more to Playboy than just pictures. That's a lot of people don't get. I mean, there's also insightful stories. Playboy isn't just, oh, look this beautiful woman. You know, yeah, of course there's that. That's what they started on. But at the end of the day, they've got other things besides that they want you to see. Articles as far as guys being shy, as far as situations come, as far as relationships, as
So
far
you
as
go to
different-
Playboy for relationship advice?
No, I don't go
kind
for
of thing.
relationship advice, but I've seen it in there. Cars, they touch all types of different stuff. They don't go deeply in depth because at the end of the day, their stuff is about women. That's what it's about. Look at these women; they're beautiful. Support us.
Do you think it's empowering, or like, do you think it's like this is just for guys to look at?
It can be empowering in the mind of the woman. Sometimes it can be degrading. It all just depends. Like I have a friend that posted Playboy. I won't drop her name. She was actually a centerfold, and she has her life with her son now. She has a great real estate career. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's art at the end of the day.
What would you say if I were to pose for Playboy or do something like that?
If it doesn't hinder anything that you got going on now, anything you're trying to build now, if that's something that you want to do, I support your decision 100%. It's your choice. As long as it doesn't harm someone else and doesn't harm yourself, go for it.
I found that really interesting, and
So
it
fascinating.
started opening this discussion in the episode about in other parts of the world overseas, nudity is very normalized. In the United States, it's very taboo.
And a lot of the points they brought up are completely valid about judgment in society, judgment from future employers. Those are all really scary things.
And this debate about judgment and normalizing this in culture is actually brings us to the reason why ultimately this episode could or could not be released on the channel. Now we will get into that further, but remember this debate.
Yes, key point. Because of course, as I'm standing there on Hollywood Boulevard asking these questions, I myself am starting to ask, do I really want to do this? Like, what does this mean for me?
So as we were making this episode, we wanted to hit all aspects of the training. Of course, this will end in a nude photo shoot, which for you was terrifying at the time. You were a little excited.
Yeah.
Tell me why this challenge was important to you.
This challenge was really important to me because coming off the heels of our Victoria's Secret modeling video and our beauty pageant video, it started raising a lot of questions, concerns, and confidence within myself regarding my and other women's relationship with their body. As someone who grew up in a very conservative part of America in Louisiana, I didn't really feel like I started, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but I don't feel like I started questioning and exploring my own relationship with my body, beauty, and sexuality until honestly after college.
And a lot of which is recorded for the first time for some of your BuzzFeed videos.
Yes.
So some of your first experiences, let's say watching porn, was actually on BuzzFeed, was on the internet for the world to see.
And most people watch porn accidentally when they're like in middle school online, you know? I never had an experience like that.
What was the porn that you watched for the BuzzFeed video?
I don't know. I had Chris Lamb curate it.
You don't remember what it was?
I remember what it was. We actually watched a we actually watched like an actual X-rated film. There were a couple different categories.
Okay, so not Pornhub.
At one point we did go to Pornhub, but I think the first film was, I forget the name of it, but it was like a proper like 90-minute feature film theatrical release from like,
was it good?
The 80s. No, it was really uncomfortable and I didn't like it.
Was it uncomfortable because you were being watched by a camera team while watching it, or was it uncomfortable because it was just poorly made?
At the time I didn't fully understand, this is so naive, I guess, but the purpose of porn is not even, you know, I thought like, oh, I want to see the story. I want to see them fall in love. And then like the sex has like love and story and a backstory to it. And this was like very cut to the chase and very focused on the male pleasure as well. That the woman was there to serve the man. But anyways, to clarify, nude modeling and doing porn are two very different things. I guess they're not. I don't know. This is getting really stressful for me to talk about.
And this is why the video was such a difficult thing to navigate.
I know, and we haven't talked about it in such a long time. Even doing this episode makes me really nervous.
So you were saying that a lot of your first experiences with your body happened post-college.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
And most people have those experiences, I feel, in high school and college.
For the most part, I would say that's a safe assumption. So going off of that, what does this episode mean to you?
So what this episode meant to me, and to be super clear, we were never going to release the photos that were fully nude. We had some photos taken that were, you know, my body was covered.
The photo shoot was half photos where Michelle posed nude and half of the photos taken where she was covered, so that we could show some of the covered ones on the internet, because they would have, YouTube would have flagged the video, taken it down if there were nudes. That's not what we were trying to do.
And that's also like, for me, it wasn't like I need to release my nudes to feel sexual freedom. It wasn't about that at all. The reason the episode was important to me was I wanted myself and other women to just feel comfortable in their bodies. Because I didn't really have too much exposure to even sex education, I feel, was completely different than it is now. The thought of taking my clothes off in front of another person, or even showing certain parts of my body to a potential partner, terrified me for a really long time. And I just wanted to use this experience as a way to celebrate loving my body in a way that I had shut down for so many years of my life. And I thought about how many other women might feel inspired, not necessarily to do a nude photo shoot. I don't think anyone needs to do that to feel comfortable in your body, but just to feel that confidence of that comfort within your own body. And I will stand by that. That's really why I wanted to do it.
So a lot of this was for you to feel empowered in your own body and to have these photos for yourself.
Yeah.
And that was a part of the process of feeling empowered and comfortable and confident in your own body.
Yeah, and what a cool experience to get to do a nude photo shoot with a renowned photographer, an incredible hair and makeup artist, in some of the same outfits that Playboy models have worn for spreads. For example, one of the non-incriminating photos was a photo of me in the vintage bunny outfit.
Which is probably the thumbnail to this video.
Yes, I guess it is probably. And that is like my body's covered, you know, like it's just like a beautiful photo. I love how it turned out because in a way it's like you can have whatever opinion you want of Playboy, but wearing that bunny suit and having that photo taken made me feel like I was reclaiming that stigma and making it my own in a way. I don't know. I feel like that's like a really vague, unclear answer to that.
Well, yeah, and it goes back to the crux of the argument, which is Playboy sexist or empowering?
I don't know. I still don't know. I think elements of it are both. Like some parts of it in the history, the Holly Madison, what happened to her, all of that fits this horrible thing of sexism. And then the parts where women do have a good experience and feel empowered and their lives are changed by being a part of the magazine, I think that's a wonderful thing. But it's like, should it exist at all if it's still playing into the sexism part in any way, shape, or form? Should
Right.
it exist at all?
But then there's also the argument, would we be as far as we are as a culture being liberal with nudity if Playboy never existed?
True.
So it's hard. It's hard to say. So with all that being said, we were making this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We finished making this episode. You did the nude photo shoot.
And I want to talk about the photo shoot, actually.
Let's talk
Because
about the photo shoot.
It was an amazing experience, which is where I think this differs from Playboy, because if you are a model for Playboy, you show up on set and it's a bunch of potentially strangers that you've never met before who you're posing for. This was a very different experience for me because I got to choose the photos and the set and the outfits.
And you knew that these photos weren't going to be put under the publication of Playboy, so you didn't doing the shoot didn't necessarily have to be a moral dilemma of, is this sexist or empowering? Because it was entirely for you, for yourself. So that was one good thing about the photo shoot.
Yeah. I mean, we had spent all of this time exploring the history of Playboy. Again, is it sexist? Is it feminist? Who knows? And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this for myself. And having that opportunity, because I feel like as a content creator, whenever you do anything, it has to be documented. It has to be shared online. You have to post it or it didn't happen. You have to record your workout or did it actually happen kind of thing. And this was the first time where we were doing something for a video and the end result was not going to be shown. It was just going to be, I did this And here are some of like the safe photos, but those other photos, the ones that are most meaningful to me, are just going to be for me because that's for me to appreciate my own body. And I thought that was a really cool, different approach to the episode than we usually do.
How long was the photo shoot?
The photo shoot was 5 hours, I think.
So tell me how that shoot went. So a very small crew, maybe 5 people. That was it. It was me, Olivia, a photographer,
My sister.
your sister. Very small, intimate crew of people. Walk me through, well, because we couldn't show the footage because we didn't release the episode, walk me through what was going through your head during the shoot from setup to setup.
So some of the photos that I wanted to do were recreations of iconic Playboy poses or imagery. And so the first part of the photo shoot was getting to like wear the vintage bunny suit and pose like the bunnies. And that was really fun because I genuinely, whether or not Playboy exists, I think those photos just look really beautiful and intentional and are very artistic, and the lighting is amazing. We recreated some of the poses of the models that we interviewed for the video, which was really cool. But I think my favorite ones were the ones that weren't recreations and were just me being myself. Those are the ones that surprised me the most, that I liked them the most, which I think was really cool because in a way, as a woman, whether you want to admit it or not, we see these ads for Victoria's Secret, for Playboy, and immediately assume that is, in a way, like that's what I'm supposed to look like. That's what I'm supposed to do. So recreating the photos was fun, but then having the surprise of, oh, the ones that were just me being myself in my own body are the ones I think are the most beautiful. Was that a really amazing revelation for myself, that I don't have to be exactly like these heralded sex symbol models to be beautiful, in my own eyes at least.
So after recreating some of these safer photos, what was going through your head the first time you had to do a completely nude photo where you had to take your clothes off in front of the crew and in front of a camera,
Yes.
knowing that these photos will exist into the world now?
Sure. And I want to be careful with the use of the word had, because I did not have to. It was my choice and something I really wanted to do, obviously. So there was that. I mean, I wanted to do it. Most of the people in that room I've been naked in front of already. The posing was interesting because I didn't realize how much, when I pose for photos, this is going to sound really weird, how much I hide behind my clothes, or like choose clothing or outfits that shape my body in a certain way or flatter certain parts of me. And when you're completely naked, you can't like angle your body necessarily in a certain way to show something off.
There's nothing to hide behind.
There's literally nothing to hide behind. And that was interesting, just looking at the photos and realizing how much certain parts of my body that I hide behind in clothes. So for example, I like wearing shirts, like sleeveless shirts, but shirts that like cover my chest in a way, because I feel confident about my arms, but maybe less so about my chest. And when both of those are out in the open together, and man, you definitely see yourself in a different way. And some people think, how is it different from just standing in front of your mirror naked? Completely different.
I have a lot of
different
respect for you. I would never be able to do something like that. So mad respect for that.
Well, thank you. I would say that anytime I felt a little bit of not discomfort, but like fear. We would either change the pose, change the outfit, or stop altogether. You know, I mean,
it was a very safe environment.
Very
for this.
safe environment. And of course, having a professional set, like the hair and makeup, the wardrobe, all of those things assist in feeling sexy and feeling empowered and getting to handpick the people who worked on this. Incredibly safe environment, incredibly supportive. It was awesome. I left feeling so beautiful, confident, and excited that I had all of these photos of myself and no one else was going to see them. Like, it was just going to be for me.
So now that the photo shoot is done, the episode has concluded production. Our editors take it. They finish editing the project. It's going to release in a few weeks. And then we get an email with a brand deal offer. The largest brand deal offer to date for the channel.
First of all, we're overjoyed to have a brand deal offer because if you guys watch the channel, you watch Challenge Accepted.
You're watching for free. And videos are not free to make. Can you give me the average cost of a Challenge Accepted episode?
The average cost of a Challenge Accepted episode, if I'm including the people required and hands, gear rentals, post-production, editor fees, for an average episode, travel expenses, like if we're going to the FBI, any of that, it can range at the minimum $10,000, at the upper end $30,000.
For example, YouTube Rewind the musical, with the documentary and the musical combined, it's about $30,000, maybe more after you consider post-production, all of that. So with that being said, we need to make money, and
Yes.
making money is from brand deals. We are fortunate that we get to work with some amazing brands.
Yes.
And brands that we are aligned with.
And I want to be clear, we're not going to say what brand this was, but this brand was a phenomenal brand to work with otherwise.
They gave us an offer.
And we were excited. We're like, hey, all right, perfect. And part of the brand deal was doing a shout out in an upcoming episode. So they wanted to know our slate of videos for that month. So I sent them the list, and it included the Playboy episode. And the next day I received an email that the brand deal was being rescinded. They were
not even just
we're
like,
out.
oh, actually, could you explain that? They completely decided, oh, never mind, we're backing out, and there's like, see ya. It wasn't even a discussion. They just decided, nope, not doing this anymore, because they heard we were doing the Playboy episode.
Yes. And this was incredibly devastating because getting an offer from this brand was a dream brand for us to work with. Anyone who knows this full story will agree and truly understands the scope of the difficulty of this whole situation. I completely melted down. I had a full-on breakdown. I remember we were upstairs, we were at the whiteboard, and we got the email, and I was just freaking out because that made me think about, I was angry because I felt that I was being punished for doing a video in which I felt a level of confidence I hadn't before.
We just put
as a woman
months of our time, money, and soul into a video. And when something like that triggers a brand deal to go away, to be clear, Playboy was not a brand deal. They weren't paying us to make.
No. We wanted to do an unbiased approach at Playboy.
Therefore, that video cost us a bunch of money to make, and we didn't get anything in return until we posted it.
Right.
Now, a new brand comes in and says, hey, we have a brand deal for you. However, now that we know you're making this Playboy video, we don't want to do it anymore. So we lost money making the Playboy episode. Can't put a brand in it because it's Playboy. And then brands are now saying, we don't want to do deals with you because that video is going to exist on your channel. That's a lot of loss of income, which is needed.
I felt so much shame. I felt, was it selfish of me to do the Playboy episode? Am I being punished for being a slut? That is how it felt to me. I was genuinely questioning, am I a slut for making this episode? And then I thought, but none of the photos are going to be shown. It's literally just a video discussing the history and then me discussing my experience doing a private nude photo shoot, which a lot of people do.
You did a video in which you trained to be a Victoria's Secret model. Now, what's interesting about that...
And they knew about that video.
And they knew about that video.
It was the most viewed video on the channel at the time.
Right. So what's interesting is that they weren't cool with a photo shoot, a nude photo shoot that wasn't going to be shown. We were only going to show photos where you were actually more covered than a swimsuit.
Correct.
They weren't cool with that, but they were cool with you wearing a swimsuit for the Victoria's Secret video. Now, that is very interesting.
And what I think that really showed to me is the problem in America of women being pressured to not show too much, but then also show just enough. You have to, I feel like there's so much pressure as a woman in America to ride that line of being suggestive enough, but still family friendly.
We learned that the line was drawn. A picture with you in lingerie can't happen. A picture of you in a swimsuit can happen.
Which is insane because...
Same amount of coverage.
Yeah. But and we got on the phone and we're trying to understand why. Why is it okay to wear a bra? Sorry. Why is it okay to wear a swimsuit, a bikini top, but not a bra? And the issue that was explained to us was, well, the context of sex. And I'm like, but both photos are taken on a set. It's wild. And I'm sure if you're listening to this now, you might even have your own argument for, yeah, but this or this. But you need to question your own argument because at the end of the day, a bikini top and a bra, in a lot of cases, not all cases, cover the same amount of territory. And it felt like this problem of, you know, how in schools today, a lot of girls are punished for breaking the dress code. And when they break the dress code, they're told, you can't wear that outfit because it's distracting to the boys. And what I felt in this situation was, you can't wear that lingerie because it makes the boys think about things, makes the boys uncomfortable. And I hated that because it's not my fault what other people think about when I wear an outfit. But what I can control is how much my body is covered. And what was shown in that episode was appropriate. It was artful. I thought it was beautiful. And again, sitting here wrestling with this argument of feeling shame for doing something that made me feel free.
So then we had to call back this brand and try to win them over. Say, hey, we want to do this brand deal. The problem with even wanting to do the brand deal meant, do we have to lose the Playboy episode? And then that brings the moral dilemma of, do I want to sell out, take the money from the brand deal, and then not do the passion project?
Right.
And that was really tough for us.
It was really, really hard because the problem was was not even the content of the episode. Again, it was the fact like, oh my gosh, you're doing an episode on Playboy. What are you doing? But then when you actually watch the episode, it's fascinating. It's educational.
We
It's
explained
a
it to them.
documentary. Yeah.
And they said, oh, what the episode does, that's fine. But it's not about what the episode actually is. It's what people will think when they see the title and thumbnail. The title was just going to be I Train Like a Playboy Bunny. And they were worried if people see that on the channel, they're going to think things. Again, that goes back to your point about the dress code. And it's about what people will think of it, not necessarily what it actually is.
It was so hard. So then I had this, again, like Garrett's describing, this moral dilemma of, you know, I should be a strong woman and I should just say screw it and release the episode and do what I want. And that is the picture of an empowered woman. So I thought. And then I had to sit with the truth of, if this brand was uncomfortable with this, how many other brands will be uncomfortable? Will I lose monetization on my channel? Will I lose all of these things that I've worked for just because other people are uncomfortable?
And this is more than losing a single brand deal. If we lose that brand deal, we can't pay our employees. And now we're thinking about...
Well, it wasn't that dire, but it was more like, if this brand is uncomfortable, how many other brands will be uncomfortable? Brand deals are a big part of our business. Is this a bad business move?
And with all of those brand deals, if they all disappear, how do we keep our employees on payroll? Our employees have families. And now all of a sudden, because we wanted to send a message, our employees' families aren't having an income anymore. The issue got very complex very fast, and there was a lot more in play.
And it affected way more people than me. And ultimately, we ended up deciding to not release the episode.
You struggled with that decision for weeks. I remember this.
I still struggle with this decision. But it was an important one for us to make, because there have been other brand deals that we've done that have been amazing and fun, and not just for the money, but like incredible life experiences that would have never happened, because I know they wouldn't have worked with us if that video existed.
Yeah, it's all a trade-off. And even though we lost the Playboy video, we gained so many other videos that are also incredibly important and special to us that we definitely wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
And what I had to decide, this was my choice. I know not every woman would agree with this choice necessarily, but I had to work through extensive therapy to define that an empowered woman, for me, myself, I have to look in the mirror and see myself as an empowered woman, because I did the experience. I grew from the experience. And just because other people didn't see it in a video doesn't mean I didn't grow from it. And that was important to me. And I am making the choice to bring more other, like 20 other videos that were possible, because we decided to not do this one, to empower people in other ways. Me, as an empowered woman, decided to do that, to put one opportunity down so we could have so many others to, of course, financially keep the business going, but also life experiences, wonderful, wonderful life experiences, career opportunities that, again, would have not happened if we had done this video. And my hope is that at some point in the future, we get to a point where I'm able to do that.
That will require a change in society, I think.
Yeah.
Problem is, we wanted this video to help change society
it's all
in that direction.
This big circle.
But now without the video, we're like, well, now society won't change as fast. So it was hard. It was very, very hard. Some people will say, well, that's selling out. Some people will say, well, you're not putting your foot down. But at the end of the day, you did it to empower yourself. And you didn't necessarily need to put it on the internet. And even though it could have helped a lot of people, the other videos you did make did help a lot of people. So it It was a difficult decision, probably one of the hardest decisions that you've had to make for you and your company to date.
Do you think there will ever be a time when I could do a video like that?
I absolutely believe yes. I don't know when. It already has a higher chance now of it, like if we decided to release it right now. But still not time, I don't think. But then again, who am I to say?
But I live with it by saying I did the experience, I grew from the experience. I'm so thankful and happy with how I grew from the experience. And I hope that even people just listening to this podcast, which is not incriminating, might learn and feel encouraged to explore their beauty in other unique ways as well.
Right. Right now, this podcast is another way for us to get that video out there without really getting it out there.
I'm honestly nervous that this podcast exists. I hope that this doesn't prevent opportunities from happening. But I also think that this is the best way for the benefits of this episode to be shared, which I think are important and special and helpful benefits. Wow, I kind of feel a weight off my chest in a way. And I'm just thinking about how many impactful conversations were had when we were making that. There is a part of this unreleased video where I FaceTime my parents and tell them what I'm doing and have a really open and honest conversation with my parents about sexuality and nude photos and does this make them uncomfortable. I hope that you guys learned a little bit and enjoyed hearing what we learned making this episode, because again, I'm thankful for what we learned doing it, and I am excited to continue challenging societal norms to see if there might be a time in the future when we can release something like that. Until then, we are very family friendly and open and available for brand deals.
We're open and available for brand deals because we're family friendly, but we're not for kids.
Right, but we're not
for kids.
We were not made for kids.
We're in that very awkward gray area.
Oh my goodness. This was such a wonderful discussion. I am so thankful that I am able to have these types of really deep conversations about femininity with you, and to hear
me.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the audience.
Both, honestly, but also I just want to highlight like how supportive you are and aware of your privilege as a man to listen.
Well, that is rule number 2 of Mission Accomplished. Always let your partner speak.
If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave us a review. Reviews help us out a ton, guys. And be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. I'm Michelle Khare at Garrett Kennell. That's all we got for today. And we are so excited to see you in our next episode.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to my boy, Kevin Svensson.
And if you made it to the end of this episode, congratulations. Mission accomplished. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.